Section 3.
بدأنا.
You will hear two urban planning students, called Carla and Rob, discussing their presentation on cities built by the sea, following instructions from their tutor. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25.
دحين نقدر نشوف الأسئلة. فإحنا لازم نقرأ ونعلم على الأمور المهمة. في كل مقطع نعلم على شيء يدل لنا هذا الأي عن إيش. أوكي.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is to talk to your partner about your presentations on urban planning. You should have done most of the reading now, so I'd like you to share your ideas and talk about the structure of your presentation and what you need to do next.
OK, Rob, I'm glad we chose quite a specific topic, cities built next to the sea. It made it much easier to find relevant information.
Yeah, and cities are growing so quickly. I mean, we know that more than half the world's population lives in cities now.
Yeah, though that's all cities, not just ones on the coast. But most of the biggest cities are actually built by the sea. I'd not realised that before.
Nor me. And what's more, a lot of them are built at places where rivers come out into the sea, but apparently this can be a problem.
Why?
Well, as the city expands, agriculture and industry tend to spread further inland along the rivers, and so agriculture moves even further inland up the river. That's not necessarily a problem, except it means more and more pollutants are discharged into the rivers.
So these are brought downstream to the cities?
Right. Did you read that article?
وقف التسجيل شوية بس عشان أنا أبغى أجرب المرة هذه إني أجاوب الأسئلة في الأسئلة اللي عندكم في الشات في نص السؤال ولو إنه هو مو كأنه اختبار حقيقي. طيب الآن كيف أعرف الأشياء المهمة؟ الجمل الاختيارات هذه 1 2 3 A B C متقاربة في موضوعها، أوكي؟ ولكن في أمور واضحة تخليها تختلف عن بعضها. فعلى سبيل المثال هنا بيتكلموا على البوبوليشن في A. طيب وهنا بيقول most largest cities، فهنا population وهنا largest cities. طيب فhalf population أنا حطيت على half، خلاص عرفت إنه half population. وهنا بيتكلم عن largest city، وهنا كلمة growing يعني الأول عن سكان، الثاني عن مساحة، الثالث عن نمو. فهذه يدل انها كلها مختلفة عن بعض. طيب اوكي في 22 نفس الشيء according to بغض النظر ما هو السؤال may bring pollution. فالاول بيتكلم عن امور ما نجحت ما نفعت، اوكي فبولوشن. اوكي والثاني بيتكلم على reduce land ان تقلل الارض، والثالث spoiled by industry. countryside هنا countryside spoiled by industry. فلما احط انا خط على هذه الامور اعرف ان هذه الامور اللي تفرق الاختيارات فاقدر اشوفها بسهوله. اوكي كمل عدت شويه.
Moves even further inland up the river. That's not necessarily a problem, except it means more and more pollutants are discharged into the rivers.
So these are brought downstream to the cities?
Right. Did you read that article about Miami on the east coast of the USA?
No.
Well, apparently back in the 1950s, they built channels to drain away the water in case of flooding.
Sounds sensible?
Yeah, they spent quite a lot of money on them, but what they didn't take into account was global warming. So they built the drainage channels too close to sea level, and now sea levels are rising, they're more or less useless. If there's a lot of rain, the water can't run away. There's nowhere for it to go. The whole design was faulty.
So what are the authorities doing about it now?
I don't know. I did read that they're aiming to stop disposing of wastewater into the ocean over the next 10 years.
But that won't help with flood prevention now, will it?
No, really, they just need to find the money for something to replace the drainage channels in order to protect against flooding now. But in the long term, they need to consider the whole ecosystem.
Right. Really, though, coastal cities can't deal with their problems on their own, can they? I mean, they've got to start acting together at an international level instead of just doing their own thing.
Absolutely. The thing is, everyone knows what the problems are, and environmentalists have a pretty good idea of what we should be doing about them, so they should be able to work together to some extent. But it's going to be a long time before countries come to a decision on what principles they're prepared to abide by.
Yeah, if they ever do.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion,
هذا الأخير ما لحقت ما سمعت الجواب فعليا. طيب، ولكن ما أعتقد من الأخير، لأنه عشان يكون الجواب الأخير لازم يقولوا شيء عن policy. Okay? فهو more sharing of information أو coordination of activities. Okay? أعتقد من الكلام اللي سمعته إنه هو A. من الكلام اللي سمعته، لأنه كانوا بيقولوا إنه لازم they need to work together. So working together is activity. It's a coordination of activities. Okay? طيب خلينا نرجع لهنا. أي أحد عنده سؤال قبل ما أنتقل إلى المقطع؟
You have some time to look at questions 26 to 30.
What decision do the students make about each of the following parts of their presentation? Use visuals. Decisions. Use visuals. Keep it short. Involve other students. Check information. Provide handout. Focus on example. Online research. Parts of the historical background. Okay.
Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
So, I think we've probably got enough for our presentation. It's only 15 minutes.
OK, so I suppose we'll begin with some general historical background about why coastal cities were established. But we don't want to spend too long on that. The other students will already know a bit about it. It's all to do with communications and so on.
Yes. We should mention some geographical factors, things like wetlands and river estuaries and coastal erosion and so on. We could have some maps of different cities with these features marked.
On a handout, you mean? Or some slides everyone can see?
Yeah, that'd be better.
It'd be good to go into past mistakes in a bit more detail. Did you read that case study of the problems there were in New Orleans with flooding a few years ago?
Yes, we could use that as the basis for that part of the talk. I don't think the other students will have read it, but they'll remember hearing about the flooding at the time.
OK. So that's probably enough background.
So then we'll go on to talk about what action's been taken to deal with the problems of coastal cities.
OK. What else do we need to talk about? Maybe something on future risks, looking more at the long term if populations continue to grow?
Yeah, we'll need to do a bit of work there. I haven't got much information, have you?
No, we'll need to look at some websites. Shouldn't take too long.
OK. And I think we should end by talking about international implications. Maybe we could ask people in the audience. We've got people from quite a lot of different places.
That'd be interesting, if we have time, yes. So now, shall we go on?
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
طيب keep it short الأولى B. الثانية 27 هم قالوا use visuals وكمان قالوا provide handouts. قالوا use maps كمان قالوا provide handouts. I would go with E. I would go with E. قد تكون A ولكن I'll choose E. Past mistakes focus on one example اللي هو كان نيو أورلين، مدينة نيو أورلين. future risk قالوا إنه لازم we need to look at websites، فهذه online research. وانترناشونال implications قالوا ممكن نخلي الطلاب الثانيين يتكلموا معانا فيها عشان نعرف ايش اللي حصل، ايش التفاصيل. اوكي فكذا this is questions 26 to 30. اوكي alright الحين 31. طبعا لما تكون الاسئله بهذه الطريقه ويكون مو choose the right answer. choose the right answer هو من أصعب الأشياء في الليسننج. ولكن لما يكون إملاء الفراغ يكون أسهل، لأنه في إملاء الفراغ غالبا أقدر أخمن إيش الكلمة اللي حتكون هنا من صياغة الجملة. ما أبغى أقرأ عشان لا أكون عارف السؤال، ولكن هتشوفوني وانا قبل ما اسمع لما يقول لي you have time to look هروح اشوف ايش معنى الجملة وايش ممكن تكون الكلمة اللي تنحط في الفراغ. اوكي فهي كلمة واحدة وحقدر اشوف هل هي كلمة لها دخل في الموضوع، كلمة لها دخل جمع او مفرد. فبهذه الطريقة تخليني اقدر اكتب الكلمة بطريقة صحيحة. طيب يلا نبدأ.
Section 4.
Section 4.
You will hear part of a lecture on renewable energy that uses the power of the sea.
Yes.
First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40.
31 to 40. More energy required because of growth in power. Probably size. What? First method that can wave energy. Waves can move in. Okay. Tidal energy. Tides are more the wind waves. In planned tidal log, whatever that. Float order is released through driving.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Producing enough energy to meet our needs has become a serious problem. Demand is...
سؤال جميل زي الاختبار الحقيقي. هذا هو كان الهدف. مصعب كان الهدف انه اسوي الكلاس بطريقة انه تكون زي ما الاختبار الحقيقي، عشان ابغى الطلاب يكونوا مستعدين لا يروحوا الاختبار ويتفاجأ انه هو مو متوقع اللي بيحصل. اوكي هذا كان هدفي، ولكن الان كمان ابغى اعلم وادرس، فيمكن نحتاج نغير شوية. عندي مشكلة بالاستماع، اسمع الكلمة واعرف الحل، لكن السبيلنج يصعب اكتب بطريقة صحيحة. صح، شوف السبيلنج هو شيء صعب ومهم جدا في سكشن الليسننج، وما له طريقة إلا أن الواحد لازم يحفظ كيف يكتب الكلمة بالطريقة الصحيحة. فعادة هذه الكلمات الصعبة تكون عادة كلمات فيها يو وفيها إي، فأنا أنصح الطلاب إذا الكلمة فيها حرف اليو ينتبهوا على طريقة كتابتها. يعني أنا أتذكر من زمان واضح حتى اليوم أخطئ في كلمة ميوزيوم. أوكي ولكن لازم أركز، ولازم مثلا كلمة Wednesday الربوع لازم نتذكر انها Wednesday فيها دي في النص بس ما ينطق. فهذه اشياء مهمة ما لها حل ان الواحد يحفظ. طيب نفك التسجيل.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Producing enough energy to meet our needs has become a serious problem. Demand is rising rapidly because of the world's increasing population and expanding industry. Burning fossil fuels like gas, coal and oil seriously damages the environment, and they'll eventually run out. For a number of years now, Scientists have been working out how we can derive energy from renewable sources, such as the sun and wind, without causing pollution. Today, I'll outline marine renewable energy, also called ocean energy, which harnesses the movement of the oceans. Marine renewable energy can be divided into three main categories: wave energy, tidal energy, and ocean thermal energy conversion. And I'll say a few words about each one. First, wave energy. Numerous devices have been invented to harvest wave energy, with names such as Wave Dragon, the Penguin, and Mighty Whale. And research is going on to try and come up with a really efficient method. This form of energy has plenty of potential, as the source is constant, and there's no danger of waves coming to a standstill. Electricity can be generated using onshore systems, using a reservoir, or offshore systems. But the problem with ocean waves is that they're erratic, with the wind making them travel in every direction. This adds to the difficulty of creating efficient technology. Ideally, all the waves would travel smoothly and regularly along the same straight line. Another drawback is that sand and other sediment on the ocean floor might be stopped from flowing normally, which can lead to environmental problems. The second category of marine energy that I'll mention is tidal energy. One major advantage of using the tide, rather than waves, as a source of energy is that it's predictable. We know the exact times of high and low tides for years to come. For tidal energy to be effective, the difference between high and low tides needs to be at least 5 meters. And this occurs naturally in only about 40 places on Earth. But the right conditions can be created by constructing a tidal lagoon, an area of seawater separated from the sea. One current plan is to create a tidal lagoon on the coast of Wales. This will be an area of water within a bay at Swansea, sheltered by a U-shaped breakwater, or dam, built out from the coast. The breakwater will contain 16 hydro turbines, and as the tide rises, water rushes through the breakwater, activating the turbines, which turn a generator to produce electricity. Then, for 3 hours as the tide goes out, the water is held back within the breakwater, increasing the difference in water level until it's several meters higher within the lagoon than in the open sea. Then, in order to release the stored water, gates in the breakwater are opened. It pours powerfully out of the lagoon, driving the turbines in the breakwater in the opposite direction.
أنا نسيت إنه قلت إني حشرح الأجوبة ليش انحطت بهالطريقة. أوكي. فهو هنا قال in ويلز في مدينة ويلز إنهم حيصنعوا نوع من مدينة ويلز، قال هي المكان من الأماكن الوحيدة في العالم اللي الواحد ممكن يستعمل فيها التايدل انرجي. فقاموا حيسووا باي معناها ميناء. will be created in a bay. فهو قال في هذا المنطقة في سوانسيا ولا ما كانت. وبعدين قاعد يتكلم عن أمور، وبعدين في النهاية قال after all this water is stored، بعد ما يتخزن هذا الموية في مكان it will be released. فهذا الريليز بيحصل through gates. فهو قال كلمة gates، فأنا عارف أنا هنا متوقع إنه الشيء هنا في شيء اللي حيخرج منه الموية، فواضح إن هي كلمة gates. لاحظوا إنه هو gates مش gate. okay? فحاول كمان في الأسئلة الثانية إني أكون أول ما جاوب السؤال أوقف وأعيد شوية.
Pours powerfully out of the lagoon, driving the turbines in the breakwater in the opposite direction and again generating thousands of megawatts of electricity. As there are 2 high tides a day, this lagoon scheme would generate electricity 4 times a day, every day, for a total of around 14 hours in every 24, and enough electricity for over 150,000 homes. This system has quite a lot in its favour.
Okay, الآن هنا قال this system has quite a lot in its favor. معناه في أشياء advantage لهذا السيستم حق tidal wave. اوكي الآن إذا شفنا الفراغات، اوكي نقدر نشوف هنا no dependent on weather، إنه ما يعتمد على الجو. اوكي والشيء الثاني بيقول no فراغ is required، ما يحتاج فراغ. غالبا هنا يمكن حنقول ما يحتاج monitoring، ما يحتاج انه يكون في واحد ينتبه عليه. يمكن يقول does not require energy، فانه هو يشتغل من نفسه بس بالطاقة حق الموية. okay. فهذا غالبا الجواب حيكون هنا likely to create a number of ما ادري، ولكن هنا حيكون شيء يعني صنع. يمكن likely to create a number of، هنشوف. ولكن نحن متوقع أن هذه الأشياء حتكون هنا.
Unlike solar and wind energy, it doesn't. This system has quite a lot in its favour. Unlike solar and wind energy, it doesn't depend on the weather. The turbines are operated without the need for fuel, so it doesn't create any greenhouse gas emissions, and very little maintenance is needed. It's estimated that electricity generated in this way will be relatively cheap, and that manufacturing the components would create more than 2,000 jobs, a big boost to the local economy. On the other hand, there are fears that lagoons might harm both fish and birds, for example by disturbing migration patterns and causing a build-up of silt, affecting local ecosystems. There are other forms of tidal energy, but I'll go on to the third category of marine energy, ocean thermal energy conversion. This depends on there being a big difference in temperature between surface water and the water a couple of kilometres below the surface, and this occurs in tropical coastal areas. The idea is to bring cold water up to the surface using a submerged pipe. The concept dates back to 1881.
كذا خلصنا السكشن الأخير. طبعا السكشن الأخير أنا من رأيي هو أسهل من السكشن الثالث اللي هو اختار الجواب الصحيح، ولكن هو كمان مو سهل يعني. فأنا متأكد إنه هو غالبا الواحد إذا مو مركز وإذا هو في الحقيقة ما عنده شوية خلفية عن الموضوع وكيف يتوقع الأسئلة، فغالبا حيجاوب إجابة شوية خاطئة. فعادي يعني لا don't worry too much من ناحية إذا إجابتك الأخطاء حقك في المقطع الأخير don't worry عادي. ما حد عنده سؤال أو ممكن تسألوني كمان على الانستغرام ولا على التليجرام، أي واحد منها أقدر أجاوب بسرعة. سؤال خلاص إن شاء الله إنه هذا الفيديو فادكم، إن شاء الله إنه تكونوا موجودين في الحصة الثانية. أنا ناوي أسوي هذا النوع من التدريب أكثر من مرة. أحب الانتراكشن، أحب إني أساعد الطلاب في حل الحقيقي فإن شاء الله الفيديو فادكم ولا البث الحي فادكم. وإذا عندكم أي سؤال الآن ولا بعدين حطوها في الكومنتس ولا حطوها في الشات الآن وإن شاء الله أرد عليكم.